not to words, but to the space between them. Part 5. 2 years after humanity withdrew, the galaxy sent a final message. Not a demand, not a threat, but an offer. A joint delegation, Veln, Lyra, and 3 neutral species, boarded a white flag vessel and traveled to the edge of the Sol system. They came unarmed. They came quiet. They came hoping. Their ship hovered above Earth's blue curve, waiting. For 3 days, nothing happened. No signals, no ships, no warnings. Just the slow turn of the planet below, wrapped in clouds and calm. Some delegates grew nervous. Others sat in silent meditation. The Lyra elder simply watched the ocean, sensing something old and deep beneath the waves. On the 4th morning, a ship appeared. It was small, smooth, and black as midnight. No markings, no lights. It drifted beside the envoy vessel like a shadow given form. A voice came through the comms, clear, human, female. "This is Captain Lena Hayes of the Odyssey. State your purpose." The Veln ambassador stepped forward. "We come to speak with Earth, not as council members, not as powers, just as neighbors." A pause. Then, "Follow us." The black ship led them not to a military base or a hidden fortress, but to a quiet bay off the coast of what was once California. There on a simple pier stood 2 people. One was Lena Hayes, tall and calm in a plain gray uniform. The other was Dev Patel, hands in his pockets, eyes sharp but kind. The delegates stepped onto the pier, boots clicking on wet wood. The air smelled of salt and pine. Birds called from the trees. It felt like stepping into a memory of peace. "We expected a fortress," the Veln said. "You expected a war," Lena replied. "We chose something else." The Lyra elder bowed her head. "You saved our people. You stopped violence without becoming violent. How?" "We remembered who we were," Dev said. "Not just explorers or traders. Not just soldiers or scientists. Humans, flawed, yes, but capable of choosing better." The Veln shifted. "The Council offers you full return. With veto power. With autonomy. With respect." Lena looked at the ocean, then back at them. "We didn't leave because we wanted power. We left because we were tired of being spoken for, of having our choices made by others who didn't understand our cost. We understand now," the Lyra said softly. "Do you?" Lena asked. "Then hear this. We are still human. We still believe in peace, but never again will we be ignored, exploited, or used as pawns in your games. If you want us back, it's not as members. It's as equals who answer to no one but ourselves." The delegates exchanged glances. This was not the deal they came to offer. But it was the only one Earth would accept. They agreed. No treaties were signed that day. No grand speeches made. Just a quiet understanding, sealed not with ink but with silence. As the envoy ship prepared to leave, Lena handed the Lyra elder a small box. Inside was a seed from an ancient earth tree, the redwood. "Plant it where your children can see it grow," she said. "So they remember that even the tallest things begin in stillness." The ship lifted off. Earth watched it go, then returned to its quiet rhythm. But the galaxy had changed. In the months that followed, stories spread, not of war, but of restraint. Of a species that could vanish and still protect. Of a silence that chose mercy over might. Civilizations that once mocked human emotion now studied it. They asked why humans cried at beauty, why they sang to stars, why they built gardens in space. And slowly, others began to do the same. The Krell hegemony split. One faction still hungered for conquest. The other, led by younger officers who had seen the Iron Maw disabled without harm, began pushing for reform. They spoke of limits, of honor, of the cost of cruelty. The Veln opened their archives to human history, not to study weapons but to understand art, music, and the strange human habit of helping strangers. The Lyra started a new tradition. Every year on the day Earth went silent, they held a moment of stillness across their worlds. No thoughts sent, no songs sung, just quiet. In honor of the choice that saved them, back on Earth life went on. Children played in parks grown over old launch pads. Farmers harvested crops under domes lit by captured sunlight. Engineers still built ships that left no trace. But now sometimes those ships carried more than weapons or rescue pods. Sometimes they carried seeds, songs, or simple messages of hope to worlds that had forgotten how to dream. Dev Patel stood one evening on the roof of a research station in Iceland, watching the auroras dance. Jake Ruiz joined him holding 2 mugs of hot cocoa. "Do you think they'll ever really understand us?" Jake asked. Dev smiled. "Maybe not. But they don't have to. They just have to remember that silence isn't empty. It's full of choices." Far above, a black ship slipped past the moon, heading out toward the stars. Not to fight, not to rule. Just to watch, to listen. To be ready because the cosmos had learned something new. The most powerful force in the universe wasn't fire or speed or even time. It was the quiet decision to do what was right, even when no one was watching. And from that day on, whenever a star dimmed or a warship vanished without a trace, or a helpless ship found safe passage through danger, civilizations didn't panic. They paused. They listened. And in the silence, they felt not fear but gratitude. For the humans had not abandoned the galaxy. They had simply taught it how to be better, and that lesson once learned could never be unlearned. The Lyra received it. They acted. Their evacuation fleet slipped away hours before the Krell arrived. No one claimed the warning. But everyone knew its source. In Denver, Elena Ruiz reviewed the latest intel. "They're testing us," she said to Marcus Boone, "seeing how far we'll go." "We're not going anywhere," Boone replied. "We're already here, and we're watching." The cosmos, for the first time in living memory, felt small. Civilizations that once saw humans as noisy newcomers now saw them as something else. Something unseen, unheard, but always present. Like the wind. Like shadows at noon. And then came Proxima Relay. A Krell battle group, frustrated and angry, cornered a civilian convoy near the relay station. The ships carried families, Lyra, Veln, even a few human-descended colonists who had stayed behind. The Krell demanded surrender. When the convoy refused, the lead Krell cruiser powered up its main cannon. It never fired. Every system on the Krell ship locked. Weapons offline, engines dead, comms silent. Even the life support cycled into standby. The crew found themselves sealed in their own bridge, watching helplessly as small, dark shapes moved between the civilian ships, guiding them away, forming a protective ring. Then, one by one, every human-made part on the Krell vessel, the bolts, the wiring, the control panels, reconfigured, not to destroy, to hold, to contain. The Krell were not hurt. They were grounded, trapped in perfect, peaceful stasis. When the Lyra later examined the ship, they found a single note etched into the hull in plain English: "Harm the helpless, and you answer to silence." The message spread like fire through dry grass. The Krell hegemony fell into chaos. Some called for total war, others begged for peace. The Veln grew quiet. The council sat in stunned silence, and Earth said nothing. Because it didn't need to. The cosmos had finally learned. The most dangerous thing in the universe was not a weapon, not a fleet, not even a black hole. It was a species that chose to disappear, and then chose to protect anyway. Part 4. A year after humanity left the council, the galaxy no longer saw humans as missing. It saw them as ghosts. Not the kind that haunted houses, but the kind that watched from the edges of sight, stepped in when things went wrong, and vanished before anyone could say thank you. They never claimed credit. They never sent messages. But their work was everywhere. Near the Orion Spur, a Krell slaver ship tried to raid a farming colony on a small moon. The colonists had no weapons, only harvest drones and old irrigation bots. Just as the Krell boarding pods latched on, every drone on the moon powered up at once. Not to fight, but to swarm. They wrapped around the pods like metal vines, fused their joints, and sealed the invaders inside. Then the colony's comms lit up with a single burst. Coordinates to the nearest Lyra patrol. The slavers were handed over without a shot fired. The drones returned to their fields. No one saw who sent the signal. In the Andromeda Fringe, a Veln research vessel drifted after its core failed. Its crew sent out a distress call, but no one answered, until a dark shape appeared beside them. No markings, no hails. The ship docked silently, patched their core with parts that looked human-made but bore no logos, and left before the Veln could even open the airlock. Later, the chief engineer found a small box in the repair bay. Inside was a toolkit and a note. "Keep your eyes open. You're not alone." The galaxy began to change. Pirates avoided human-influenced sectors. The Krell pulled back from border worlds. Even the Veln stopped spying on old human colonies. Fear had turned into something else, respect maybe, or awe. But not trust. Not yet. On Earth, life continued in quiet rhythm. Children went to school. Farmers grew food under domes. Engineers built things no one outside the planet would ever see. But the real work happened in the shadows. Ships slipped out of hidden bays on the moon, on Ceres, on the dark side of Mercury. They carried no flags, no names, only purpose. Captain Lena Hayes commanded one of these ships, the Odyssey. It was small, sleek, and black as space itself. Its engines made no sound. Its hull absorbed every kind of scan. On board, Dev Patel monitored the stealth systems while a young pilot named Jake Ruiz, President Elena's nephew, guided them through asteroid fields like they were dancing. Their mission that week was simple. Find a Krell prison barge drifting near the Helios Rift and free its captives. Intel said it held over 200 beings from a dozen species, locked in stasis for transport to a labor camp. The Odyssey arrived 3 hours before the barge's next jump. They didn't attack. They didn't fire, they just appeared beside it, matching its speed perfectly. Then Dev sent out a pulse, a soft, precise burst of energy that only affected Krell tech. Every lock on the barge clicked open. Every stasis pod powered down. The prisoners woke up confused but free. Inside the barge, chaos should have followed. But instead, calm. Because as the prisoners stumbled into the halls, they found food, water, and maps waiting for them. And on every wall, glowing softly in their native languages, were instructions. Go to Bay 3. Ships await. No questions. The Odyssey had brought 3 small shuttles empty and pre-programmed to fly to safe zones. The prisoners boarded without knowing who helped them. By the time the Krell guards woke from their own stasis, induced by a harmless neural mist, the barge was empty, and the rescuers were gone. Back on Earth, Marcus Boone reviewed the mission logs. We're not just saving lives, he told Elena Ruiz during their weekly call. We're showing them that silence doesn't mean absence. It means choice, she nodded. Let them wonder who we are. As long as they stop hurting each other, it doesn't matter. But not all missions went smoothly. Near the Proxima Relay, a human stealth scout was spotted by a Krell patrol. It shouldn't have happened. The ship was cloaked, its heat signature buried in cosmic background noise. But one Krell officer, sharp-eyed and stubborn, noticed a tiny ripple in the starlight. He fired blindly. The scout took minor damage. Not enough to crash, but enough to leave a trail. The Krell gave chase. For 3 days, the scout danced through debris fields and dead comets, losing power, losing time. On the 4th day, it sent a single ping, a distress call on an old human frequency. Within hours, 3 other black ships appeared out of nowhere. They didn't fight the Krell. They just surrounded the scout, formed a tight formation, and activated their cloaks together. The entire group vanished like smoke and wind. The Krell patrol searched for weeks. They found nothing. The scout made it back to a hidden dock beneath Europa's ice. Its pilot, a woman named Mara Lynn, walked out pale but smiling. They'll keep looking, she said. But they'll never find the pattern. Because there was no pattern. Human movements were random, unpredictable. Guided only by need, not by strategy the galaxy could map. The Lyra began leaving offerings at old human outposts. Flowers, crystals, songs recorded on data chips. They didn't expect answers. They just wanted to say thank you. Sometimes the offerings disappeared. Other times they were returned with small gifts in return. A repaired tool, a seed from Earth, a drawing of a star they'd never seen. The Veln, ever practical, started copying human stealth tech. They failed. Every attempt either overheated or collapsed into useless slag. Their scientists couldn't understand why. The answer was simple. Human tech wasn't just hardware. It was woven with something else: patience, restraint, the will to disappear rather than dominate. Then came the incident at the Row Station, a neutral trading hub. Row Station sat at the crossroads of 5 major routes. It was supposed to be safe, but a Krell splinter group, angry at their losses, launched a surprise strike. They took hostages, rigged the core to blow, and demanded the Council hand over all human data they still held. The Council hesitated. The Velen argued for negotiation. The Lyra pleaded for peace. No one moved, until the lights went out, not just on the station. Across the entire system, every ship, every drone, every weapon frozen. The Krell terrorists found their detonators dead, their comms silent, their limbs too heavy to move. Outside, dark shapes glided between the docking arms. They cut power to the bomb. They freed the hostages. They carried the terrorists away in sealed pods. When power returned, the station was empty of threats. On the main screen, a message glowed for 10 seconds before vanishing. Safety is not a gift. It is a right. The council held an emergency session that lasted 3 days. For the first time, every delegate agreed on one thing. Humanity was not hiding. They were guarding, but guarding what? Not territory. Not resources. Not even their own people. They were guarding the idea that the weak didn't have to suffer just because the strong existed. Back on Earth, in a quiet room beneath the Rockies, Elena Ruiz looked at a star map covered in tiny red pins, each one a mission, a rescue, a quiet act of defiance. She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She just added another pin near the Cygnus arm. "We're not heroes," she said to no one. "We're reminders. Reminders that silence could be kind, that absence could be powerful, that sometimes the best way to protect the galaxy was to step back and watch from the dark." And so they did. Ships moved unseen. Hands reached out without names. Voices stayed quiet, but actions spoke louder than any speech ever could. The cosmos, once loud with war and greed, began to liste. Ripped clean. Even the International Peace Array, a giant telescope once used to listen for alien life, was dismantled and rebuilt into something else. A device that could mute Earth's own radio noise, like turning off a light in a dark room. The galaxy noticed the change. Human colonies on Proxima b and Kepler 186f went silent one by one. No distress calls. No last messages. Just quiet. The Lyra sent gentle inquiries through old diplomatic channels. No replies came. The Veln demanded answers at council sessions, but their words echoed in an empty space where humans used to sit. Still, Earth did not speak. In Denver, Elena Ruiz reviewed footage from the outer system. A Krell cruiser drifted near Jupiter's moon, scanning, probing. Then, without warning, its engines cut out. Its lights died. It floated, dead and dark, for 17 hours before its crew managed to restart their core. By then, they were too frightened to stay. They turned and fled. No one claimed credit. No human ship was seen. But everyone knew. Marcus Boone stood in a vault beneath Geneva, staring at a wall of glowing blue vials. Each held a modified virus, harmless to humans but capable of disabling alien biosystems for short periods. "We're not making weapons," he told his team. "We're making choices. The choice to stop a war before it starts. The choice to walk away." Some people worried. What if they went too far? What if they became something the galaxy would truly fear? But others said that fear was better than helplessness. For too long, humans had played by rules written by others. Now they wrote their own. On a quiet beach in Oregon, an old fisherman named Ray watched the horizon. He had served on Earth's first deep space freighter 50 years ago. He remembered the wonder of meeting the Lyra, the thrill of trading with the Veln. Now he saw only empty sky. But he wasn't sad. "They'll come looking," he told his grandson, who sat beside him mending nets. "And when they do, they won't find the same people they left behind." The boy nodded. He had never heard a human voice from another star. To him, the silence was normal. But he knew stories. He knew that silence could be louder than noise. In lunar orbit, the last human cargo ship undocked from the old supply station. Its hold was empty. Its destination was classified. As it drifted away, the station's lights dimmed, then went out. Within a week, automated drones began tearing it apart, scattering the pieces into solar orbit where they would burn up or drift forever. Earth was cleaning house. No music played on the comms anymore. No news broadcasts. No late-night talk shows beamed into the void. The planet's electromagnetic signature shrank to almost nothing. To a passing ship, Earth looked like a dead world, cold, quiet, forgotten. But beneath the surface, hearts still beat. Minds still worked. Hands still built. And in hidden labs and buried cities and silent ships waiting in the dark, humanity waited too. Not for war. Not for revenge. For the moment when silence would speak louder than any weapon ever could. The Krell sent another fleet. Bigger this time. 10 ships. They crossed the asteroid belt with weapons charged, scanners wide open. They found Mars empty, Jupiter silent, Saturn's rings undisturbed. When they reached Earth's orbit, they saw only a blue-green marble wrapped in clouds. No defenses. No warnings. Just peace. They hovered for 2 days, confused. Then, on the third night, every ship in the fleet lost power at once. Not damaged, not attacked, just off, like someone had flipped a switch. When power returned hours later, the fleet commander ordered an immediate retreat. He didn't report what he saw, but his logs showed one thing. During the blackout, every human-made object in the fleet, screws, wires, even the coffee mugs in the mess hall, had rearranged themselves into a single word, spelled in perfect English across every screen. Leave. The Krell did, and Earth said nothing, because silence, they were learning, was the loudest language of all. Part 3. 6 months after humanity vanished from the stars, the Krell hegemony could no longer pretend it was nothing. Their scouts were gone. Their warships had returned broken and shaken. Their commanders spoke in hushed tones about ghosts in the Sol system. The High Marshal himself, a scarred veteran of 3 galactic conflicts, refused to send more ships, but the pressure from the hegemony's ruling council was too strong. They needed answers. They needed to prove that humans were not something to fear, so they sent the Iron Maw, their newest dreadnought, a ship the size of a small moon, armored in neutron-forged plating, armed with plasma lances that could crack planets open. It carried 10,000 soldiers, a full surveillance suite, and a vow. This time they would not leave without proof. The Iron Maw crossed into human space like a storm rolling over calm water. It ignored the empty outposts, the silent moons, the dead comms channels. It went straight for Earth. But as it passed Mars, something strange happened. The ship's long-range sensors flickered, then died. Not damaged, just empty, as if space itself had gone blind. The crew rebooted the systems. They came back online, but the stars looked wrong. Too still, too quiet. Captain Vorak, a Krell with battle trophies braided into his crest, ordered full alert. "Scan for cloaked vessels," he growled. "Check for gravity mines. Look for anything." They found nothing. Then the lights dimmed, not all at once, just a slow fade, like dusk falling inside a metal tomb. Emergency power kicked in, red and pulsing. Alarms stayed silent. No explosions. No breaches. Just darkness creeping in from the edges. On the bridge, Vorak gripped his command chair. "Report," no one answered. The crew stood frozen, eyes wide, muscles locked. Not dead, not hurt. Just stuck, like time had paused for them alone. Outside, the Iron Maw hung in space, dark and still. 3 days later, a Lyra observation post near the Kuiper Belt detected a faint energy ripple. They sent a probe. It found the dreadnought drifting, engines cold, weapons offline. When the Lyra hailed it, a single Krell officer answered, voice trembling. "They didn't attack us," he whispered. "They just stopped us." Like we were toys on a shelf, the Lyra asked what they saw. "Nothing," the officer said. That's the worst part. There was nothing there. News spread fast. A Krell dreadnought, the pride of their fleet, had been disabled without a shot fired. No wreckage, no bodies, just silence and stillness. The Veln demanded an investigation. The council called emergency sessions. But Earth remained quiet. Meanwhile, far from Sol, near the edge of the Helios Rift, a small freighter carrying Lyra refugees was ambushed by pirate slavers from the Zenth Collective. The pirates boarded easily. The Lyra, peaceful by nature, offered no resistance. They were herded into cargo holds, collared with neural dampeners ready to be sold. Then the lights went out, not just on the freighter. On the pirate ships, too. Every system failed at once. Gravity plating shut off. Air recyclers stopped. Even the collars around the Lyra necks clicked open. In the dark, something moved. No footsteps. No voices, just soft shifts in the air like cloth brushing metal. The pirates fired blindly. Their weapons sparked and died in their hands. One by one, they were lifted, not roughly but firmly, and placed in sealed compartments. The freighter's engines restarted on their own. Its course changed. It jumped to warp without a pilot. 2 days later, it arrived at a neutral Lyra sanctuary world. The refugees were safe. The pirates were locked in stasis pods, unharmed but confused. And on the bridge, etched into the console in clean human script, were 3 words: "You are free." No ship was seen. No signal sent. But the Lyra knew. Back on Earth, in a hidden base beneath the Greenland ice sheet, Lena Hayes watched the report come in. She was young for a captain, only 32, but her eyes held the weight of someone who had seen too much too soon. She turned to Dev Patel, who stood beside her, arms crossed. "They're starting to notice," she said. "They're starting to believe," he replied. Belief was spreading faster than fear. Stories poured in from the outer rim. A Krell supply convoy vanished near Alpha Centauri. A Veln spy drone was found floating near Neptune. Its memory core wiped clean except for a single Earth lullaby playing on loop. A mining colony on Epsilon Eridani reported strange lights in the sky, ships that moved without sound, left no trail, and vanished before anyone could get a clear scan. The galaxy began to whisper. Not about invasion, about guardianship, but not everyone welcomed it. The Veln High Council declared the human silence a threat to galactic stability. A power that acts without declaration is a power that cannot be trusted, their speaker said. They pushed for a joint fleet to blockade Sol, to force Earth back to the table. The Lyra opposed it. They have harmed no one who did not harm others first, their elders said. They rescued our people. They disabled weapons, not lives. Is that not the mark of restraint? The debate raged for weeks. In the end, no fleet was sent. But the tension grew. On Titan, a lone human outpost long thought abandoned woke up. Deep beneath its icy crust, a machine hummed to life. It wasn't a weapon. It was a lens. A gravity lens designed to bend light around an entire moon. For 17 minutes, Titan disappeared from every long-range scan in the sector. When it reappeared, a single data packet was broadcast on an old human emergency frequency. It contained star charts, updated jump coordinates, and a warning. Krell patrols moving toward Lyra border. Avoid Sector 7G. First one. The chamber hung in the quiet hush of deep space, a silver bubble of light and glass orbiting far beyond any star that humans once called home. Inside, the air hummed with the low thrum of climate systems and the soft murmur of 57 alien species, each seated in their own curved alcove, their forms as varied as the worlds they came from. Some had too many eyes, others none at all. Some spoke in clicks, others in colors that shimmered across their skin. But all of them, for the first time in a long while, were watching the same thing. A lone human standing at the center podium. His name was Kyle Dawson. He was not tall, not loud, not dressed in ceremonial robes like the Veln ambassador beside him, whose scaled shoulders bristled with honor spines. Kyle wore a simple gray suit, the kind you might see in an old Earth courtroom. His hands rested on the smooth edge of the podium. His face showed no anger, no sorrow, just calm. That calm was what unsettled them most. For over 2 centuries, humanity had been part of the Galactic Council. At first, they were the newcomers, awkward, loud, full of questions. They asked about faster-than-light travel, about how to grow food on dead moons, about why the Lyra never lied. Over time, they learned. They built. They traded. They even helped stop the Krell border raids near the Helios Rift. But lately, something had changed. Human ships stopped answering hails. Their delegates grew quieter in sessions. And now here he was. "I speak on behalf of Earth and all its colonies," Kyle said. His voice carried clearly through the translation fields that hung like invisible domes above each seat. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council. A ripple moved through the chamber. The Veln ambassador leaned forward, his forked tongue flicking out in disbelief. On what grounds? He demanded, his voice a dry rasp. "Have we offended? Has there been a breach of treaty?" Kyle shook his head. "No breach. No offense. This is not a protest. It is a choice." The Lyra delegate, a slender being with skin like liquid pearl, tilted her head. Her thoughts brushed gently against Kyle's mind. Not an invasion, just a soft inquiry. She felt no deception, only resolve. That worried her more than lies would have. "Will you explain this choice?" she asked aloud, her voice like wind through crystal chimes. "I cannot," Kyle replied. "Not yet, perhaps not ever. But know this, Earth does not leave out of fear or anger. We leave because we must," he stepped back. The silence that followed was heavier than any explosion. Delegates exchanged glances, tapped at data pads, sent urgent pulses to their homeworlds. Humans had always been strange. Too emotional, too curious, too willing to risk everything for an idea. But this was different. This was final. Within the hour, every human representative vanished. Not in a dramatic flash of light or a fleet of warships roaring away. They simply left. Their quarters on the station were empty. Their comms channels went dark. Even the small garden they kept, A patch of real Earth soil with tomato vines and marigolds was gone, as if it had never been there. Back on Earth, cities did not panic. There were no riots, no broadcasts of doom. Instead, a quiet order spread through every nation. President Elena Ruiz addressed the world from a sunlit office in Denver, her voice steady. "We are not under attack," she said. "We are not broken. We are choosing a new path, one that begins with silence." People listened. Factories that once built fusion reactors for export now turned inward, crafting parts for something no one named. Schools added new subjects: signal masking, low observable engineering, deep cover linguistics. Farmers planted crops that could grow in sealed domes. Engineers dismantled orbital relays and buried them in the ocean trenches. It was not chaos. It was preparation. Meanwhile, in the outer system, Marcus Boone stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching Earth turn below. He had spent his life studying alien tech, helping humans adapt to galactic standards. Now he was helping them unlearn it all. "They think we're collapsing," he said to no one in particular. "Let them think that." The Krell hegemony, always watching, sent a probe toward Mars within days. It found the human mining outpost abandoned. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just empty corridors and a single coffee mug left on a table, still warm. The Krell commander frowned. Humans were messy. They left things behind: notes, jokes, half-finished songs. This silence felt wrong. On Titan, a research team powered down their long-range antenna for the last time. One young scientist, Dev Patel, hesitated before flipping the switch. "What if they come looking for us?" he asked. "They already are," his supervisor replied. "And when they do, they'll find nothing but echoes." Back in the council chamber, the Veln called for an emergency session. "This is a threat," he insisted. "A species does not vanish without reason. They are hiding something." The Lyra disagreed. "Or they are protecting something," she said softly. "Maybe even us, but no one knew for sure." The galaxy had grown used to human noise. Their music, their arguments, their endless questions. Now that noise was gone, and in its place was a silence so complete it felt like a presence. Kyle Dawson was last seen boarding a small shuttle bound for the dark side of the moon. He carried no luggage, only a data chip sealed in titanium. When asked where he was going, he smiled faintly and said, "Home." Earth signal, once a bright beacon of chatter and data streaming into the stars, flickered once and went out, the cosmos noticed. Not with alarm at first, but with curiosity. Then, as days turned to weeks and no human voice returned, that curiosity turned to unease. Civilizations that had taken humanity for granted began to wonder, what happens when the loudest voice in the room decides to stop speaking? And more importantly, what are they doing while they're quiet? No one had an answer, not yet. But somewhere deep beneath the ice of Europa, a new kind of engine hummed to life. Somewhere in the Amazon, a child learned to speak 10 languages before her 5th birthday. And somewhere in the void between stars, a ship with no name slipped past a Krell patrol without a single sensor ping. The withdrawal was complete. The silence had begun, and the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, felt small. Part 2. Earth did not fall apart after the silence began. Instead, it folded in on itself like a flower closing at dusk. Cities still woke with the sun, trains still ran on time, and children still laughed in schoolyards. But beneath that calm surface, everything had changed. The world was no longer looking outward. It was turning inward, sharpening its edges, learning to breathe without the galaxy watching. President Elena Ruiz moved her office underground, not out of fear, but for focus. The new command center sat beneath the Rocky Mountains carved into solid granite. There were no windows, only screens showing feeds from every corner of the planet. She met daily with Marcus Boone, the quiet scientist who now led Project Stillpoint, the plan that would erase humanity's footprint from the stars. They spoke little, but their silence was full of understanding. Across the oceans, in a repurposed subway tunnel beneath Tokyo, engineers worked on drives that bent light around a ship like water around a stone. In Nairobi, biologists spliced genes from deep-sea creatures into human cell cultures, testing how far a person could adapt before they stopped being recognizable as human. In Buenos Aires, historians compiled every war, every peace treaty, every mistake Earth had ever made, not to repeat them, but to learn how to win without fighting. No one called it a war. Not yet. But everyone knew they were preparing for something. The Krell hegemony grew impatient. Their first scout fleet had vanished near Mars, and now they sent more. 3 cruisers armed and scanning. They found nothing. No signals. No heat signatures. Not even debris. It was as if the Sol system had swallowed them whole. The Krell commanders argued among themselves. Some said humans had fled. Others whispered that Earth had become a trap, but Earth was not a trap. It was a vault, and inside that vault, humanity was changing. On the moon, in a crater sealed by magnetic shields, workers assembled ships unlike any the galaxy had seen. They were black, smooth, with no visible engines or weapons. Their hulls absorbed radar, light, even gravity waves. They didn't fly, they slipped. And they were built not for conquest, but for disappearance. Dev Patel, once a researcher on Titan, now led a team in Antarctica. They worked in a dome buried under 2 miles of ice, testing a new kind of cloaking field. It didn't just hide a ship, it made the space around it forget it was ever there. During one test, a drone vanished so completely that even their own sensors couldn't find it for 3 hours. When it reappeared, frost covered its surface, though the lab was warm. It wasn't just hidden, Dev said, staring at the readouts. It was gone. Back on Earth, schools taught new lessons. Children learned how to send messages using starlight patterns, how to build radios from scrap metal, how to read the sky for signs of watchers. They were not being trained to fight aliens. They were being taught to survive if the world went dark again, and to thrive in that darkness. Trade stopped. Not because Earth lacked resources, but because every gram of metal, every drop of fuel was needed for what came next. Old satellites were pulled from orbit and melted down. Abandoned space stations were sent here.